Hi everyone, I want to make a quick video talking about my Marauder solo GR speed farming setup that I've been using the last couple of days. I keep getting a lot of questions about the Marauder Demon Hunter. I did make a very extensive guide last season when the set was reworked, so you might want to check that out. I'll be mostly talking about my setup here that I've been farming with in season 26 for now. So after I've got my barb into a pretty good spot, I decided to go on the DH and start blasting those GR speeds. First of all, you should know that there are 3 viable builds on the Demon Hunter that all are pretty equal in GR speeds, which is the Marauder, God DH and Impale in fact. So they are performing at really similar levels and you can choose which one you prefer. And here's the setup that I chose to farm most of my gear on the Demon Hunter. My aim here is to do very fast runs. So typically Marauder DH is a more slow-paced build. You can definitely go quite high with this, and rather slow runs, like 3 minutes or so, is typically the most efficient route to take if you want to maximize your XP per hour. But in my case, I just want to get good XP per hour, but maximize my loot. And this is why I sped up the setup a bit. So in my case, I've been blasting GR 103 speeds in something like average around 2 minutes. So I do get the occasional like 2.5 minute run or so on a bad map. But at the same time, I very often clear these runs in like 90 seconds, 100 seconds or something like this. So this goes really fast. It is like on the pace of God DH, even slightly higher, because I run a very greedy setup with this, including the Frost Burn and no companions. So this is a very squish setup, as you can imagine, and this is also why I don't recommend it to anyone. So for the better part of my farming sessions, I've been running this with 100 million toughness full buffed. I did get small improvements, so now I'm at 120 million. Wow. And yeah, there's basically one shot to everything if you run this setup. So typically you have the Zoe's Secret here and you don't have preparation, you have companions and you get 63% damage reduction. Yeah, and then your toughness is not exactly great, but it's going to be sitting at somewhere between 200 and 300 million. If you're well geared, maybe a bit higher even. Also depends a bit on the vitality, depending on how much you're running. So if you are having a lot of trouble surviving, then the #1 priority is to stack some more vitality and just put it in paragons or something like this. Because typically on Marauder DH, you roll off a lot of vitality. You don't have it on the helm, you don't really have it on the shoulder, on the gloves. So you are kind of low on vitality, and this is one of the mistakes that a lot of people make. I also get a lot of questions about cluster arrow, cold versus fire versus multishot. So the answer is just play what you want mostly in speedruns. Also for pushing, it is pretty close, like almost equal between multishot and cluster arrow fire. You don't play cold in pushing. So it mostly comes down to the exact rolls on your Bombardier's rucksack, which has the cluster arrow roll, and your Yang's V-curve that has the multishot roll. So for example, in my case, I would never push multishot with such a bow. So this would be a cluster arrow bow. Luckily, it's very easy to get a good Yang's for cluster arrow, but not so easy for multishot because of the affix. And similarly, it is rather easy to get a multishot quiver, but not so easy to get a cluster arrow quiver. So I would mostly decide depending on which items you have, but once they are fully optimized, those two setups are really close, with multishot generally being a bit harder to play. A lot of people also ask me why I run Smokescreen, so this goes pretty well with the theme of being an absolute glass cannon with this setup. So this helps you to protect your life and your squirt's necklace. And I fuel this with preparation, focused mind. So this is why I dropped the companions. Usually you would run Vault here for almost every scenario, pushing, farming, whatever. But in these cases where I really try to just rush through those rifts really quickly in like 1.5 minutes, you kind of need a Smokescreen to make sure that you can just, press forward all the time. If you do more slow-paced runs, Vault is usually the way to go because you can just get in position more strategically, you can set up your sentries, you can, stay back and shoot a little bit. But in my case, if you want to do these really quick runs and competing with the pace of God DH, you have to run all the time to actually keep up. To make the setup more smooth, I have a lot of cooldown and resource cost reduction. So I have quad gloves, I have a double here, I have the quiver with cooldown, I have cooldown on my weapon. So optimally, I would actually have resource instead of vitality here. And I think at that point, I could also run with Dark Heart instead of Sea for my vengeance. And this would actually make the setup not even that super glass cannon anymore. So this is the goal I'm aiming for right now. I'm trying to get a quiver where I have cooldown and resource together, and potentially I could also run the enchanters, which I haven't been doing yet. My vengeance cooldown would be actually pretty close to perma. I think it's going to be something like 28 seconds cooldown on 20 seconds duration, so pretty nice. And we will have no need for sieve anymore, which right now I'm using to actually keep up the hatred and keep shooting all the time. So with a very optimized setup, you could maybe consider running this, but it's still gonna be extremely classy. So this is really only something for advanced blasting in my opinion. In addition to the vitality that I mentioned earlier, also make sure you have really good drafts of clarity. So something like 48 is kind of like the minimum on the affix, and you want to get even more, usually up to 50. This actually matters quite a lot. And the same with the resource cost reduction on the Yanks. This resource cost reduction translates to damage reduction from Captain Crimson, and you want to make sure you have a good roll here. If you have mediocre Yanks and it rolls like 42%, and then you have non-perfect wraps, and you are like Paragon 1k with like 2 augments, yeah, you're gonna be squishy as hell, even if you are playing regular setups with Story Secret and companions. So this is something to be aware about. Stack vitality, make sure you have good rolls on these 2 items, and this will help you. So just a short video I wanted to highlight here for the Marauder TH. I will probably stop farming with it and actually switch to Impale for my future GR speeds, because I also wanted to play that build a little bit. It's quite fun, and I'm slowly preparing for some pushing, so stay tuned for that. Hope you liked this video, subscribe for more D3 content, and I'll see you guys next time.